Now we're all only too familiar with how Croydon has been thrust into the spotlight over the violence we've seen there this week. But 50 years ago, the town was in the news for a very different reason, a terrible tragedy that claimed 34 young lives. A plane carrying a group of schoolboys on a school trip crashed into a mountain in Norway. Matthew Morris has the story.
From Lanfranc Secondary Modern School went the bodies of 33 boys and one master who died when their plane crashed into a mountain in Norway. This surely was the saddest day Croydon has ever known. With one other boy and another master who will be buried separately, they light-heartedly set out for a wonderful holiday. They came back in coffins of Norwegian wood.
A school summer trip had ended in disaster. There were no survivors after the Cunard Eagle Airways plane crashed into the mountain 50 years ago. 34 boys, 2 teachers and 3 aircrew died.
Well, you feature in the book quite a bit, Clive.
Rosalind Jones has written a book about the crash, with all proceeds going to the Norwegian Red Cross. Her brother Quentin Green died. He was 13.
My parents came in from the garden and I said to them, the news has come through, they found the plane and there are no survivors. And my father thought, I said, there are 9 survivors. And I said, no, Daddy, there are no survivors.
The disaster had a huge impact on the local community. Sue Hayes lost her brother.
Every detail of that day when we were told that my brother had been killed. I remember waking up in the morning, I remember the striped dress that was hanging on the door, and I remember my father crying out when the policeman came to the door and said, you know, they've been found.
Rosalind is determined to make sure the victims are never forgotten. That's why she visited the school 50 years on.
Heard a plane fly overhead in low cloud. Then they heard a loud bang.
I feel sorry for all the people who died and what they were going through at the time.
I don't always get on with my little brother, but knowing that one trip or whatever can make you lose your brother makes me really think about what relationship I have with him.
When I see men of Jeff's age, he would have been 64. I think of him and would he have had a family? What would that family have been like? Yes. I miss my brother.
A feeling shared by many others who will always remember the teachers, the aircrew and the 34 schoolboys. Matthew Morris, BBC London News.
Now, if you were watching yesterday, aside from the riots affecting Croydon, people there have also been remembering a tragedy 50 years ago when a plane crashed into a Norwegian mountain, killing 39 people, most of them schoolboys. Relatives and friends of those who died have this week gone back to the site of the crash to pay their respects. Matthew Morris was with them.
Climbing a mountain in Norway that is still scarred by what happened.
As we've walked up the mountainside today, we've seen a lot of the wreckage still, which is mind-blowingly difficult to comprehend.
Nigel Green's older brother Quentin was one of the 34 schoolboys from Croydon that died when their plane crashed here 50 years ago.
Surreal, to be honest with you. It's a very strange sensation. This is my second time here. And I think, to be honest with you, it's going to be my last time as well, because I don't need to have to come back. This will be the final laying of the ghost for me.
2 teachers also died, along with 2 pilots and a stewardess. The plane, codenamed Papa Mike, came down in bad weather, although the exact cause remains a mystery. Nigel's sister Rosalind finally meets a very special man.
This is Ole Lekvam, and he was the very first man on the spot just ahead of the Norwegian Air Force. He ran up here in the early morning and he discovered the wreckage of the plane, and it was really terrible for him. It was an awful experience.
He tells me the years have been very difficult for him, but that this pilgrimage is very positive and final for him too. A service is held by the Memorial Cross.
That traumatic scene 50 years ago, every one of us are supposed to experience youth, to grow up. Your unlucky boys were sadly deprived these opportunities.
I was the younger sister of Martin White. I was concerned that it would get lost in history. It was at the time such a big national story, and since then I don't remember anything being mentioned about it. I'm so pleased that this event has been organised. It's almost like another final goodbye for them, which they deserve.
Another service to mark the tragedy is being held at Croydon Minster on Sunday. Matthew Morris, BBC London News, Norway.